Here we are in the future, and it's wrong.
Ooh.
Hey, it's me, Echo, and this is the Talkcast Podshow, the only podcast talk show on the internet. All the other ones died.
Yeah, it was a real shame. It was a real tragedy what happened to the internet.
Yeah, just a moment of silence for all those dead podcasts out there. We're the only ones standing.
Yeah, but don't worry, we're here. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about the Steven universe because it ended. It's over. There's no more Steven universe. We are now in a post-Steven world.
Actually done. There will be.
Yeah.
They even I think Rebecca Sugar was on Twitter going there's a rumor that there's a comic that I'm going to be consulting on or having something to do with. That's not true. This is the end. I'm not doing any more Steven universe or not planned. So
we're in the future. The future is Stevenless now.
Yeah, there is no Steven. All the Stevens out there, you can't be Steven anymore. You got to be some variation on it, like Stephan.
You're just Steve
maybe
now.
now people say my name right.
Oh man, for a little while there, I couldn't remember if it was Stephen or Stephan.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah,
I always forget how you spell it. I'm never sure if there's an A or an E at the end.
There is an A at the end.
Fortunately, Stephan. Yeah, Stephan.
I'll remember that today, but not tomorrow.
Stephan, you are cutting out just a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Hopefully, it won't be too bad.
I'll turn down the input sensitivity even more. That should fix it, hopefully.
But yeah, so we, all three of us, have been watching Steven Universe, I think, since the very beginning, or at least, I don't know. When did you guys get on board with the Steven?
For me, sometime mid-season 2.
I want to say I started after season 2 ended and kind of marathoned it before season 3 started.
A lot of people I know got into Steven Universe with the second season and a lot of people. Okay, well, hold on. The second season, I almost said the second Steven. The second season had Jailbreak in it, right?
I thought that was the end of the first season.
Yeah, that's the end of the first season. I came in sometime well after that.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Jailbreak was the season 1 finale. Okay, a lot of people I know saw Jailbreak and thought, oh, okay, so if this is a sign of the quality of the show, then I'll get into it.
That was definitely what got me to start paying attention when I started seeing clips from it and commercials for it. And I was like, oh, okay, this Steven Universe show might not be... Because I will never forget the first run of commercials for Steven Universe made me go I never want to watch that show. It looks like a worse Clarence and I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Oh, damn.
And the tagline was always if every pork chop were perfect, we wouldn't have hot dogs. I was like, okay, we've just got another dumb fat kid, and that's the bit. Okay, I'm out.
Steven's original accent, it doesn't help.
When he was talking like this,
yeah, he was. Yeah, no,
man, I love hot dogs, you guys.
Yeah, they definitely dumbed up his voice early on, and I was very much not a fan. But then when I started seeing clips from later stuff and then being no, this gym stuff is crazy and it's anime as hell, I was like, okay, maybe I'll give this a look. And then being the musical nerd I am, who just loves Disney-esque songs, when I started seeing how much music was in this show, I was like, well, now I have to watch it.
Yeah, actually, God,
I knew most of the songs in season 1 before I ever watched an episode of Steven Universe.
You know, it's sort of interesting because I never was so much into musicals, and this is going to be kind of amazing to people considering my orientation, but I was never so much into musicals when I was growing up. Not that I didn't appreciate Disney musicals, but it wasn't one of those things that really was a draw for me. When I heard, oh yeah, they sing, I wasn't like, oh, well then I need to watch that. I actually got into Steven Universe very early on, mostly just because I really dug on some of the character designs and the precedent. I won't lie, there was a bit of an anime feel to it, and I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, and not in the fucking Shaolin oh god, what was that show? Shaolin Showdown. Not me.
Yeah.
We're just gonna borrow the art style and make things really goofy. But there was something about it that there was a sort of depth there that I was sort of interested in. Then I won't lie, when I saw the pilot, Garnet's original design is gorgeous. Like, I like Garnet's design in the actual show. God knows she rocks that square afro. But damn, if you ever see the pilot Garnet, you're gonna be like, wow, okay, I kind of I wish I could have seen where that went.
The pilot's the sort of thing where you can very much tell that the majority of the team was working on Adventure Time, and then they weren't.
Yeah. Also, it was also kind of giving me Adventure Time vibes, which at the time I was super into Adventure Time. Like,
That's something I still haven't really watched.
Honestly, Adventure Time's a show where, unlike Steven Universe, I'm not sure it'll last the test of time. Like, it'll be a thing where, like, it was big at the time and then just sort of disappeared, and I think Steven Universe is actually going to have more staying power.
I wonder about that. I actually kind of feel like it's almost I feel like both of them kind of hit different, not necessarily totally different demographics, but I think they fill different artistic niches. I don't know. I think I think Steven Universe will stick around, or at least have a more prominent impact, partially because of all the social commentary in it and what it did for LGBT representation in television.
There was that, and I think there's also just that it has a more interesting story than Adventure Time chose to tell. Adventure Time had a lot of things that could have been interesting, and they just never quite committed to, because it's mostly a comedy show. It's a little more seat of its pants, and as a result, a lot of stuff gets dropped, a lot of stuff doesn't fully get realized as well as it could have. I fell off of Adventure Time because of that. If I fell off of Steven Universe, I shouldn't be here.
When it comes to Adventure Time, don't want to spend too much time on this topic. It was definitely a show that tried a lot of different things, and also it was damn brave. If I'm going to be honest, in terms of its storytelling and going into the directions that it wanted to go.
I will say they captured the feeling of melancholy better than Steven Universe can.
Oh, hello?
Oh, there we go. Did you lose me?
Yeah, you said melancholy and then we lost
you.
it
captured the feeling of just melancholy better than Steven Universe ever did.
Yeah. But enough about Adventure Time, enough about early seasons of Steven Universe, because we're in the future, and it's over. The future's over. As it turns out, Steven Universe, after its movie, which we will talk about here in a second, it got a full sequel series, or an epilogue series. Steven Universe GT, or I guess it's kind of Z? I don't know. At least I was about to say at least it's not Super, but I like Super better than GT, so... Steven Universe Future was made to kind of wrap everything up after the original series. It didn't quite put a bow on things. It ended the series, but it didn't quite wrap up a lot of its loose ends. And then we got, but first we got the movie. Was there a name? Was it just Steven Universe the movie?
Yes.
Was there no subtitle? Okay. Yeah, Steven Universe the movie. The story about a little rubber girl with separation anxiety. Yeah.
And I will just go out on the record and say real quick that the movie I think is my favorite Steven Universe thing, period.
Well, you just really love the music in it too.
That is part of it.
So the Steven Universe the movie, we never talked about it much. We actually wanted to do a review, and if we had the Talkcast Podshow at the time, we likely would have. But Steven Universe the movie is a mixed bag for me, because its good stuff is so exceptionally good for me. Like, I won't lie, Spinell is the best villain in all of Steven Universe. Just absolutely, I don't think that's... you can argue with me, but I'm not going to listen. I love Spinell. She's got such a great backstory. Her personality is amazing. She's intimidating and violent and out of control. The way that they handle her, not the best. But the character herself is phenomenal. Would you agree?
Yeah. I think she's great, and they do a very good job in a very little amount of time to endear her to you.
I think one of the best things that they did with her was her opening fight is just
her introduction
wow.
is fantastic. My thing with the movie, I really enjoyed the movie, but the way I look at it is it retreads a lot of already like known territory with the series. Like the whole premise of the thing is everyone basically gets reset to zero, and Stephan over the course of a movie has to get everybody all of their character development in a single scene basically for each one, which is nice and like it is an emotionally satisfying thing, and it has a lot of fun revelations within it because it's kind of an alternate history on all of these characters from their starting points. But I want to emphasize that I really liked it, but it just felt like a lot of recycled stuff, and Spinell kind of felt like a cause and then an afterthought. Like it was like, all right, she'll be here to set everyone back to zero so we can have these emotional, like, Stephan, you've been busy helping everybody else so much, you need to remember that you can do things yourself. And which will play into what the future series was all about. But then it was kind of like, and also Spinell is still here and wants to kill you again? Question mark? And just kind of felt like, it kind of felt sloppy, but all the individual pieces of it I think are great.
Yeah. Like my personal feeling on that, specifically on the on the recap side of it, is that I liked the material that we were given to recap everybody, but man, yeah, it's a recap. It is frustrating, the fact that it's like, hey, all this character development, we're going to recreate it over the course of 90 minutes. And it's like, oh,
and
okay.
that said, like, and I know I mentioned this to you at some point, I do think the movie weirdly can lend itself to like being something that you show people who have not watched much Steven Universe, because the opening song is just telling you what happens in the series. And like the whole show is about, or the whole movie is kind of about characters coming back to a point they already were, just in a bit of an abridged fashion. So like it really, like I would be curious to show that to someone who hasn't seen Steven Universe and be like, does this have any resonance for you?
I definitely think Spinell would.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Because it's very easy that they set her up to be likable in one movie. But I don't know. Like I have the whole context of the entire show behind it, but the movie is just what hits the best for me, and part of it is the fact that it's a musical. I'm big into musicals. I love them. So
on the music side, yeah, holy shit. I actually bought the soundtrack on Amazon, which I really like. I actually have the original soundtrack that was released for the show. I hope there are more in the future. But
I think they already put out a second one, I believe.
Oh, good.
Because I think I have it.
Good. But the movie soundtrack is phenomenal. And it is so easy for me to just put on almost any song from the movie and jam to it. Like, there's no bad song in the film. Even though there is one or two weak ones, I won't lie. They're
weirdly enough, my least favorite, well, maybe not my least favorite, but a song I didn't particularly care for from the movie was like the main one. I feel like
the true,
yeah, the true,
yeah. Estelle's song is actually one of the weaker ones in the movie, which is sad.
It's very
Estelle's
repetitive,
are actually,
in my opinion, personally. It's nice, but
yeah, it is. It's repetitive. It's it's not incredibly engaging, and I love Estelle. Like, I love Estelle. When I found her music after watching Steven Universe, I fell in love with a lot of her discography. But in this particular film, it's the both of her songs are just they're kind of neat melodic. Like, they sound neat. They sound good, but they don't quite get you all that pumped up. Yeah. American Boy is a goddamn treat. That's one of Estelle's songs.
Well, for me, I feel like Estelle's songs in Steven Universe are always the weaker ones for me, just because her songs are a lot more mellow than I'm personally into. But that's not really the song's problem. That's just my personal preference.
It's a preference thing.
Yeah. So I don't think I can judge on that mark. But like, I also I love the songs that are more musical theater-y. You Can Make a Change is great. Spinell songs are both great. Like, just all of that stuff that's more musical theater style. I just love it.
You Can Make a Change is a song that infuriates me because I love it so goddamn much, and it ends way too goddamn quickly.
Yeah, I just wish it were longer. That's my only critique of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's mine. I'm actually kind of angry that they didn't make a longer sequence with that song just because it's so good. It's such a great scene. Also,
and the animation that accompanies it is amazing.
Yeah. Oh, Takafumi Hori, I think that is. Unfortunately, that ends really quickly. Like, so we haven't talked much about the story. The story is pretty good for the most part, but the way that it all wrapped up was really unsatisfying for me. Like, I like the idea that... I do like the idea that Spinell comes to the conclusion of, like, oh my god, what is wrong with me? Kind of just with a bit of a nudge from Stephan. Like, she has this breaking point, and then after she's over that emotional high, she sees this violence that she's enacting, and she's horrified with herself. And that's such a good scene, but it just kind of comes so quickly, and, like, it kind of comes out of left field, and then it's over.
Yeah, I think just the realization that due to her trauma, she just needs distance is a pretty all right ending. And I know other people don't like it, but I really like her going off and hanging out with the diamonds. And I'm pretty sure a huge portion of that personally too. I think a huge part of why I love that is just the way that they melded those two songs together. It's just it worked for me.
Mean, yes, actually.
Right here, right
now.
No, yeah. I definitely think so. Favorite song from the movie for me would honestly be the "Here We Are in the Future." Just everyone getting their own bit. That's always my musical thing. Just all right, we're all gonna do our own take on this song.
Oh my god, that whole scene is gorgeous and great, and I loved it.
Friggin' Pearls, and after love and loss and all the tears that I like is like one of the best musical moments in the entire series, in my opinion.
That actor loves whenever she gets a chance to show off, she does, and it's great.
Yeah, no, she's like Pearl is one of those characters who, as the show went on, I started liking more and more, and realized a big part of it was her performance. Like, I love anytime she gets to sing, just because I think her actress is so incredibly talented. But yeah, the way the movie ended, I genuinely really liked the diamonds kind of coming in and being like, "You remind us of Pink," and they're like, "You remind me of Pink," and just this like happy. Yeah, we're going to try this out and get you away from Stephan, the actual thing you want to kill, and give you some space.
Amazing that all the people who wanted to kill... Actually, you know what? Everyone wants to kill Stephan. Hell, Stephan even makes a direct reference to the fact that, like, wow, Stephan doesn't make the reference. I think Lapis makes the reference of, like, wow, that's record time for wanting to kill you to being your best friend.
Yeah.
Which I... particularly, like, I don't love lampshading when done, like, because it can be done so poorly. That was a great hat. I was, I was like, okay, yeah, that's good. That's good shit.
Yeah, and I think, just to name a song from the movie that's, like, not one of the huge ones people bring up usually, but I really like it, is No Matter What.
No Matter What's really good.
I love that song. It's adorable and great.
I didn't like it when I watched the movie, but every time I've come back to it after, I've liked it more and more.
You just want to bob your head to it and be like, yeah, no matter what.
Yeah. Also, Independent Together also grew on me a lot. When I first watched it, I'm like, all right, this is a cool little scene. Like, I dig on the 60s, 70s rock vibe that it's laying down. And then just the more and more I listen to it, I'm like, wow, this is really this is an empowering little song, and I like it.
For me, that's actually one that had diminishing returns for me. But, like,
oh, okay.
I think that's also partially because I'm just a little bit just disturbed by the character. So, like, his whole design...
Mr. Universe is a little...
His whole design, like, Steg is just a little weird and off-putting to me.
Yeah, Mr. Universe is a little... Oh, boy.
Now, I know he's someone's thing, but, like...
Yeah,
he's just off-putting to me. Like, the four-armed dude is just weird.
Well, here's the thing. I'm actually in that demographic of people. But the problem for me is, like, I'm like, okay, but I have to remember that's Stephan and his dad.
That's a father-son couple.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Whenever I think about that, it's Mr. Multiverse.
That's a fun name.
Yeah, you know what? I'll go with Mr. Multiverse then. Mr. Multiverse is incredibly hot, and they play to that too. Like in the actual thing, they play to the fact that it's like, oh wow, he's really hot. But oh yeah, he's
And I'll just say for like the chat's pointing this out, we are not getting into the fusion is sex thing because that's not what it is. It's just relationships. But
well, it
can represent that, but in this case, it does not, and we are fully aware of that. It's just a little uncomfortable to be like, hey, that character is meant to be hot, and half of him is a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah, well, that part doesn't bother me because of how fusion works. Again, it's the fact that it's just dad and son. That's kind of like saying I want to have a threesome with a guy and his dad.
It's just weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
And again, like fusion, the four-armed fleshy man is also weird to me. But
yeah,
it's like someone having a crush on the guy from Mortal Kombat, which I know people
Goro,
do.
Which I absolutely 100% do.
But it's
Kintaro's
weird to me
probably more up
personally.
your alley.
But fusion represents a lot of different things. If fusion can represent sex, it represented sexual exploration for Stefani. It was a pretty direct metaphor for sex with Pearl and Garnet creating sardonyx. But with say Stephen and Amethyst, it's absolutely not.
It's way more of like a friendship.
It represented puberty. It also represented sexual exploration. There are a couple lines in there that, and I don't mean about people having like direct sex. I mean there is a line in there that Stefani says, "Do you want to keep going? Or we can stop if you want." It's
a age appropriate way to explore a lot of things that would be weird or they'd just be incapable of exploring otherwise. And it means whatever it needs to mean in the moment. And that's not actually a negative thing. That's just what it is.
No. And the only reason that it is a negative for some people is because it is tough to pin it down. So look, I took the I don't want to argue too much with the chat, especially for the people at home. But yeah, for me, Stefani's is about sexual exploration, puberty. It's about somebody, these two characters coming together, and finding themselves in a brand new situation that has to do with this new body of theirs. Yeah, I feel like it represents a lot of things, and one of those things is sexual exploration. Which again, when you're young, that is a part of growing up. That is actually an important part, and I don't want to I feel like we get really uncomfortable talking about that, and I don't think we should be. I think we should just approach it from a responsible perspective.
That said, let's wrap this all the way back around to the movie again. Do you guys have some other songs that you either aren't talked about enough that you like, or just didn't quite hit for you?
I honestly really like the first song, like the little recap song that they do. Just the Steve, it's over the top production. Started, it just made me crack up as I was when the movie started. Just because it's that perfect tone of very extra for the Diamonds, but also no, he did literally save the galaxy. This is an entire history shifting thing for this age old, centuries old, millennia old, really, empire, and this one kid changed it. So yeah, this should be a big flowery, we're gonna go over the top moment, but just the everyone believes it, that whole song I think is fun in a perfect way.
Yeah, just spending 20 minutes, or just spending the first opening 5 minutes filleting Stephen. Yeah. But then again, that's kind of what the show does from time to time. Even when Stephen's got problems, it's all about him.
Well, it's
the show is universe. So
go ahead.
Oh, good.
I was just gonna say, he's the shonen hero, except his power is hugs. So I mean, and good vibes. So it makes sense.
And also, a lot of the show is about interpersonal relationships and smaller things. So even when, the big bombastic action happened, it was kind of easy to forget that this was involving, an entire universe, essentially. Because the Gems had a very widespread empire. and we really only saw tiny pieces of it throughout the series. So I think the movie opens with like this grandiose thing to kind of be like, by the way, like the whole universe has changed because of what Steven Universe did, and that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, like, I just want to tackle real quick a lot of people at the time. I don't know how people are feeling about it now, but at the time were like, we want to see Steven face someone he can't talk to, and we want him to basically have to use violence to solve a problem. And I wasn't totally outside of that group, but I do think all of that was pretty wrong-headed, especially after Future. I'm like, I'm glad it wasn't that show. I'm glad it decided to be a different show.
I'm okay. Now that we've kind of got the movie out of the way, let's talk about Steven Universe Future proper, which I still believe the movie is part of that, but it's kind of also just a bridge. Mm-hmm. Steven Universe Future is basically the story about Steven and dealing with the aftermath of everything that happened in the original series. It is a what is that? The falling action, is it? Over the course of how many episodes was Steven Universe Future?
24.
I think you're right. It is the epilogue to 20. Yeah, it is the denouement. Yeah, it is 20 episodes of basically wrap up and the epilogue for a bunch of different characters, and it's good. It's a good season. I'm just gonna say it flat out. This is a good season.
Oh yeah, I'd say it's really good.
Yeah, I've had problems. I definitely had problems with the original Steven Universe's final couple seasons. I felt like it dropped some balls in some areas. Not all the time. I still like Steven Universe as a whole, and I still appreciate the story that they were telling or trying to tell. But I felt like Steven Universe Future was far more consistent throughout in its focus, in the story that it was trying to tell, in the emotions it was trying to communicate.
And it may have even picked up a few of those arguably dropped balls.
Yeah, so, gosh, if we're going to talk about this, I should have had a plan.
I'd say, why don't you start with Jasper?
All right, so Jasper, we were talking about characters that Steven can't talk down. Jasper's actually pretty high up there in characters that, nope, sorry, talking won't work. That's just not how Jasper is wired.
The only time Jasper did start kind of respecting and talking was after she got the crap kicked out of her.
After he killed her?
Unfortunate.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Well, you know what? I guess, obviously, spoilers. Sorry, guys.
I mean, we're talking about Steven Universe Future. What do you...
we're talking about its finale. We're supposed to be talking about the ending.
Yeah.
Yeah. So... Jasper, from the very beginning of this season, is standoffish. They're not quite evil, but they're basically Vegeta. Like, they're super duper Vegeta.
They're very toxic.
Yes.
Well, it's like the worst parts of Vegeta and Goku. It's just this constant desire for pure strength and nothing else, and like eschewing all things.
Though it's implied that like Jasper's the only Jasper who's this stubborn.
Yes.
Jasper grew up with this idea of war and conquering and like strength above all, and now she's basically left to wander around as a vagrant on a planet that she has no interest in maintaining.
Yeah, and like I think she has the added trauma of, Pink Diamond getting quote unquote shattered really fucked her up. Throughout it's made very clear that that's the thing that really bugs her more than anything, and then learning that person is actually Steven bugs her even more.
Yeah, and I think part of that has to do with her need for what do you call it? What is it? She needs direction. She needs control, actually. Which is, it's weird to say it, but she needs, there's a term for it, leadership, really. And without it, she's just kind of frustrated because she doesn't kind of live for herself. She doesn't have much purpose. Hell, that's one of the reasons that she wanted to be with,
Lapis.
Lazuli. Yeah, with Lapis is because she saw in her a way to be bigger and better, and without her, she languishes.
Yeah, and I will say she's very easy to turn on her own like ideals if it gets her more power.
Yeah, also that she is a violent space rock.
Fusion is for weak gems until it's a way to get stronger. Then it's for her.
Yeah, well, when she found out what it can be like, she's like, never mind, I was wrong.
Though she'd never say that.
You know what? No, she wouldn't. She absolutely would not.
But she will walk through walls twice instead of using the door.
She's hard-headed, and I love the fact that, in fact, she is so hard-headed that's her weapon.
Yeah.
But she was a good character to see come back. I did not want a redemption arc for her, and though that's what we got.
I don't even know if we really got that. Yeah, like I actually really like how they dealt with Jasper, because like, yes, she became loyal to Stephan after he killed her, but he was very like, what I did was wrong, and this wasn't how this should have gone. And she is still in the like, yes, my diamond, you are my master, because strength is all that matters. And like, so she still has a very flawed way of thinking. She's just now currently following a not dangerous person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, it's a thing where like she's obviously starting to, I guess
she reminds me of early Peridot.
Yeah, like she's
technically good, but don't trust her.
I think she's always going to be kind of a dick, but like, you know, she might become more acclimated to little homeworld and stuff now. That she's been ordered to by someone she respects, but
she's definitely not got a choice. But yeah, Jasper, fascinating character, and we'll get a little bit more into her as we continue with Stephan's story. Peridot and Lapis took a huge backseat, though,
which bummed me out. They're two of my favorites.
Yeah, but like everyone,
they were the ones I was really wanting to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I understand with the amount of time the show had to work with, not everybody was going to get a ton of focus, and some characters, don't have a whole lot of pivotal plot relevance. But the trio of Peridot, Lapis, and Bismuth, I think, is such a good, like, I would watch a spinoff with them in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're a good little mini team.
Yeah. And they as somebody pointed out, they did get their own episodes. We did get what was the episode with the Lapis Lazuli?
Oh, the terraforming where they find the two other Lapises that are dicks.
Yeah.
And it also showed how strong Lapis is even among other Lapis Lazulis.
Yeah, no, she is strong as hell. Which I'm glad that they brought back. Yeah. She was always an incredibly powerful Lapis Lazuli, and part of that comes due to the fact that she spent all of that time suffering, and I think that's actually something that contributed to her power. I think, unfortunately, you know, a lot of her, sometimes we take our trauma and our issues and we turn them into strength. Sometimes in healthy ways, and other times unhealthy ways. She originally did it in a very unhealthy way, but now she's using that strength to do better things, which, you know, that's really great to see. Lapis is one of those characters that is actually defined by her trauma.
Which on that note, if you don't mind, I'd like to just say that I think it's actually a very, very good choice that her and Peridot didn't fuse, given that information.
You know what? As much as I desperately wanted to see them healthy and happy together, yeah.
That's the thing. That can exist without fusion, right?
Yes. Yeah, it can. They are in fact a very happy couple together. And in another turn where, well, fusion can represent sex, they don't fuse. Yeah. Because for both of them, that's not something that they probably feel comfortable doing. Peridot just isn't into it. And Lapis, she has terrible memories of it. But they still love each other and spend time with each other. They're still a happy couple. But it is kind of this, like, asexuality, like, as some people have said, Peridot's kind of the asexual rep. I wouldn't say aromantic because I definitely think that she's got something with Lapis. But
yeah, I think it's good to just let there be a story where the main portrayal of intimacy is not seen as the only way characters can care about each other.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important.
So
you're right. And everything you're saying is logically correct, but I wanted to see Peridot fuse. Damn it!
I know.
I just wanted to see what that would
too.
look like. I want to know what those characters would be. I want to see her personality meld with someone else.
Yeah,
and
by that same token, I was also one of those people who would really have wanted to see it because it would have been rad. But after we got through Future, like actually midway through it, but like I was like, okay, I can see why this is actually a good story to tell, and let that just be the way it is.
Yeah, and that's it was ultimately the right choice from the writing point of view, from the metaphor, but so Peridot and Lapis, they got a couple episodes, but they felt a little bit more refrained this season. Bismuth gets a very interesting episode, an episode I did not quite expect. Also, some seeds of a very interesting thing that we never get to see actually flourish, but damn it, I can't believe I really, really, really want to see Bismuth and Pearl go on a date.
Yeah, I think it's something where I like that it's just there, it's heavily implied, but it doesn't, that's their own business. that's kind of outside of Steven's life and control, so it doesn't really get covered in the series.
Speaking of outside of Steven's control, this season talks a lot about things happening around Steven that the audience does not get to see and Steven doesn't get to see.
Yeah.
And I found that very interesting.
I did as well, and I thought his reaction to it all, like before Steven Universe Future, the show literally revolved around Steven, and now other people's lives don't revolve around him, and he has trouble dealing with that.
Yeah, actually, one of the big things, one of the issues that a lot of people find with Steven Universe, especially from a storytelling point of view, is that Steven Universe literally has Steven in every single episode. He is the point of perspective for the audience every time. Every time. I can scarce remember moments where Steven isn't conscious and part of the action that's taking place.
Yeah, he always seems primarily involved, and I think the turning point episode for me, and I know it was pretty early. It was like one of the, I want to say, first 3 or 4 episodes of the show for Future. But the episode where it kind of reveals that Lars and Sadie aren't together and they are going in very different directions with their lives, and Steven just losing it over that was like, that to me was like where my eyes kind of opened to what Steven Universe Future was going to be about, where it was like, no, this stuff that you think is just going to be like assumed is not how it's going to go, and characters actually have lives that are not part of this narrative. And it's, it gets to be this different thing. And Steven kind of, I think, was sort of an audience proxy of like but no, my ship, like, what are you doing? And like, you seem so perfect. Why would you do this? And like realizing the layers of complexity these characters can have and how they don't need to just revolve around one another, I thought was really good and got me really excited for where Future could go.
Yeah, and it's kind of cute when he's a kid, but not when he's 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
16. Sorry, yeah. But real quick, Scott, could you like stop your screen share? I think that might be hurting my connection.
Oh, you know what? Let's see about that. If that actually fixes it, that would be good.
That'll probably help.
All right. Let's hope.
But yeah, yeah, like he kind of was the audience proxy in that like, no, but they were supposed to be perfect together, and I actually really liked that they were telling that story of like, no, like they actually went and lived different lives for a very long time, and they just weren't the same people at the end of it.
Yeah, And thank God, because so the fact is I actually liked Lars and Sadie as a couple for writing reasons, but they were always bad for each other. From the very beginning, he is neglectful and selfish, and she deserved better. She always deserved better. Even though she had her own struggles and her own problems, she was the one putting in the effort and trying to make things work while he was always so shitty. And he developed over time. Thank God. Like, Lars was one of those characters that could have gone 1 or 2 seasons, and he actually legitimately evolves. And it's amazing because it takes him dying and becoming Captain Harlock to do it.
Yeah, and he became a pretty great character at the end of that process.
I really like what they did with Lars.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was a teenager, so he was really shitty because teenagers are shitty. If you're a teenager listening to this right now, I'm sorry, you're shitty, but you'll get better.
Don't worry, everyone's shitty as a teenager, and if you work hard at it, you can be a less shitty adult.
Yeah, exactly.
But so Lars, I'm glad to see that Lars, also did not end up with Sadie. He should not have. Even if it does kind of suck to see a relationship like that we could have wanted to get better. And, you know, hey, you know what? She's happy. He's learning more about himself and growing, and that's good.
And there's a little bit of non-binary representation.
Yes, and somebody in the chat actually pointed this out, and that's just such a fascinating perspective. Non-binary, a non-binary love interest for Sadie after she immediately has a very physical reaction to Stefani.
Yeah.
I found that very interesting.
I don't remember that, but that does fit.
Yeah. The moment that Stefani showed up at the donut place,
Sadie blushed.
Yeah, Sadie blushes. She's like, oh my God.
It was a thing where like both Lars and Sadie were like, oh. Yeah,
and for me, that actually, my personal perspective on that is that when it comes to Stefani, although they have a very feminine character design, there's still these parts about them that kind of feel that feel gender non-binary, that kind of can go both ways.
And they're referred to as they. So
yeah. Hell, there was one of the Dove commercials actually. They feature Stefani, and they have this little pad where they're going over their social media, and it's a blink and you'll miss it, but it's them, they, intersex.
Huh. Which a lot of people thought.
Go ahead. Oh no, I think Stephan cut out.
What? No, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. You were saying?
Yeah, just a lot of people thought that, and it was true.
Yeah. So, by the way, intersex, for all you out there, means that they've got both. So, for anyone who's ever wanted to know
working
that about
with two
Stefani,
tools,
they have both sets. So that is canonical.
Yeah, it's a more common than some people would think situation for a lot of people.
Yeah. But so beyond that, let us move past Stefani's junk. So yeah, they're both both Lars and Sadie have split. Steven doesn't even know that it happens. The audience has to find out after the fact, which, by the way, this show liked to throw a lot of that at you. Like, hey, guess what? During the time where, during this period between the original series and now, shit happened, and you can't do anything about it. Deal with that. And that's good I think that's actually good for kids. One of the things that the show liked to do was that it liked to change things. It didn't have, it wanted to change its status quo. It didn't want to make you feel too comfortable. And that's important because kids need to learn that things just change and move on. And
Yeah.
I liked the fact that it took its time to actually emphasize that.
It evoked a lot of feelings that a lot of people, I think, start to feel when they're leaving high school and going into college.
Yeah, I can see that.
Especially
So
with all the
let's
Connie
see.
stuff, which maybe she's next.
Oh, yeah, okay, so... Oh, boy, Connie. Oh, boy, Connie. Oh, boy.
That was something.
Yeah. So Connie is getting ready for college, and she's doing it a little bit early, but that scans.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that fits perfectly.
And she has been spending a lot of time away from Stephan, which has been very tough for Stephan. Connie is... I don't know why they kept saying friend. It was really awkward that they kept saying friend.
When they're clearly not just friends.
Yeah, they're like, it's not even a matter of them trying to hide it. Why are they saying friend over and over?
Because I don't think because they're teens, and I don't think they have anything official, and like neither of them want to commit to. Well, let's not say neither of them. Stephan wanted to get married, but they putting a label on it at that age, I think, makes some kind of a sense to me of just being like, no, we're friends. We might maybe have some benefits, but we're friends.
And maybe it's a weird standards and practices thing. I don't know.
I highly doubt it.
You wouldn't think, but you never know with the guys in that department.
Maybe it was someone on the writing staff like saying, "Oh man, these heteronormative ideas of boyfriend and girlfriend." I don't know, but it seemed really awkward that they kept saying friend, and especially in Bismuth Casual specifically is where it happens.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you keep saying friend, Stephan? You guys are boyfriend and girlfriend. You kiss. You go on dates.
Were they really like being affectionate, like physically at that point? Because I feel like I thought it was a big moment when she kissed him in the finale. Like
no, she kissed him before that.
Okay,
she kissed him in the movie.
On the cheek, though, to be clear.
Yeah, on the cheek, but
it's very chaste, but
like,
it's still.
I feel like everything
stuff.
felt. I thought everything felt pretty innocent friend almost until Stephan proposed. Like they clearly had feelings for each other, but had not been like very expressed.
I mean, they obviously.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was saying even when he does propose, the idea isn't that it's coming out of left field for them to act like they're dating, because Connie seems to basically take it as a given that they will spend their life together already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that you don't have that kind of certainty unless you're already dating.
And have been since you were 10 years old, basically.
13, actually.
Yeah.
12 and 13.
However young they were at the time, yeah.
Which, by the way, never works. I'm going to say it right here. It never works. And for the people that have, quote unquote, made it work, it's usually been really awkward and weird and kind of gross. Now, there are outliers. There are absolutely, but I feel like it is good to say that, hey, yeah, no, if you get together with somebody in high school, you are almost certainly not going to end up together for the rest of your life, and that's just not how people work most of the time.
And mostly people just need to accept that that's the plot, that's what's probably going to happen. If it doesn't happen, great, good for you.
Yeah. Now, I fully believe that Stephan and Connie, like they even say, yes, they will be together.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's totally fine. I love them. I love them as a couple. They're the sweetest, cutest thing, and I am so happy that the series made a focus on them. I love Connie. I love Stephan. I love Stevani. But boy, was that episode hard to fucking watch. Wow. Like, the episode where he proposes is tough.
I feel like that's going to be some like that little like pair of episodes. I think will be one of the things remembered most from Steven Universe Future in particular. Like I think there was a lot of mental health and self-care stuff that was discussed in that, very frankly, that I think a lot of people who watch the show and feel like they identify with a lot of characters needed to hear, myself included.
Yes. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about this because God damn it, some of the discourse about the show pisses me off, and I'm this is going to be a little ranty. Some motherfuckers on Twitter and other places have talked about how that scene where Connie's mother sits down Stephen and talks to him about his PTSD. Some people were talking about like, man, so, other shows show you it. They don't just sit you down and tell you it. And I'm like,
the series spent its whole thing showing you, and the last episode goes, in case you didn't get this.
Yeah, episodes on episodes showing you Stephen's personal response to his own trauma, never saying it completely outright, but laying it bare in front of you in visual in visual form. It shows you exactly what he's been going through and how he's developed. For the first time ever, they sit down. Okay, not ever, but for the first real time in the series, they sit down and say, "Hey, this is what PTSD is. I think you have it."
Yeah,
from a doctor. From an actual doctor. That's her purpose, is to tell him.
It's also
hey.
The character's job is to frankly tell a patient what they're suffering.
Help them understand what they're going through.
Yeah, that scene is so impactful. Like, when I was watching it, I'm like, oh shit, I have PTSD. I have real traumas from my childhood and some from my adulthood. I have mild depression and mild anxiety. I have to fucking go to a therapist. I have to. I don't take medication. I've tried other ways to get around it because that's just this way that I decided to handle it. But I have a lot of shit that I gotta go through, and to have it said, to have it actually said, meant a lot. Like, to have somebody talk about it, especially to kids, to say it outright, meant more than I think a lot of people actually understand.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people will hear the line, "How am I supposed to live when it feels like I'm constantly about to die?" is something people are going to hear and like is really going to resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, dude, I'm tearing up right now talking about it because that line, I don't like to talk. I'm not going to talk about my own personal problems, but man, there are times where my anxiety spiked from triggers that remind me and bring me back to when my life was in a really bad place. It is very difficult to get away from those thoughts and those feelings because your body doesn't respond normally. Your body doesn't process it as a memory. It processes it as we're back to that moment. We are in that moment again.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. It's terrible. It's a really bad feeling. And I'm so glad. Like, this is one of the reasons I like Steven Universe and have suggested it time and time again. Because it will approach these subjects in a way that makes it easily communicable to kids. And that's so good and important.
Well, and frankly, like, as an adult, when she explained the physiological reasons for all that stuff happening, it actually helped me understand some of my own reactions to things in, like, the past year or year and a half and so, or so, like, to certain stimuli and whatnot. It's like, oh, that's what was going on. That's why I was reacting that way. Like, I went through a prolonged experience of anxiety and very bad feelings, and for a while it was very easy for me to fall back into feeling insanely anxious.
Yeah.
And they explained why, and that was actually helpful to me, like, as an adult.
Yeah. So, like, to the people who got all shitty about that scene, come on, you guys. That scene was literally made to help explore things that they were showing for episode after episode. It was important. To the characters and I think to the audience. So,
and it's a thing that's just not discussed in kids stuff very often in general and has like real world implications. Like, I get the idea of like, show don't tell for a good story, whatever. Again, there's logical reason for this character to tell things and stuff, but also it is covering a topic that's just important for the target demographic. And I think that kind of like, as much as I, think that plot and story is very good, I think that kind of supersedes that at a point.
Yeah. And I agree. But yeah, so, and now finally, there are other characters we could talk about, but let's be honest, Garnet Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl had their fucking time. Pearl gets a little bit where she fuses with another Pearl, which, by the way, that is fucking amazing.
That was real cool.
That was real cool. Fucking total, also hard reference to Utena and Rosa Versailles, I think it was. It was actually a couple different references.
But and those three also had their growth already, so they just didn't need that much focus this season.
Yeah. Garnet and Amethyst, gosh, I feel like Garnet barely does anything in the season, and that's not a complaint. Amethyst actually has a little bit with Stephan, and that shit was good. But yeah, at the end of the day, the Steven Universe Future is largely about Stephan's response to everything that happened, and it's hard to watch, and not in a bad way, but in a way that it's like, oh wow, okay, yeah, now he's got some legitimate problems. This kid has some really big problems. Oh god, he just murdered somebody. Okay.
Well, it's a thing where I feel like Steven Universe Future is what happens to a character who bases their whole life around one conflict that they eventually resolve. Like if you want to take this to a more relatable thing, it's like I think a lot of kids when they go through school is their like the only thing they like one of the big things they think about. Like they are going through high school. My life is about getting through every day of high school and facing the next one. And then it's like, well, all right, you're done with school. Now it's time for you to pick something and go somewhere and decide on a direction. And that's like terrifying. And all you want to do is focus on the things that you grew up with or are familiar. And Steven Universe Future is about those things falling away and being like, they're not going to be here for you all the time.
Yeah, and also just a generally subversive look at the child chosen one narrative and what that might do to someone's psyche.
Yeah. It's watching him try to process a lot of the feelings, because so one of the things that the series talks about is that Stephen's never had a Stephen.
Yeah.
Stephen has tried very hard over many years to be the emotional rock for people, to communicate with them and work through problems. And that's always been one of his strengths. The fact that he knows, he does that very well. Yeah. Somebody in the chat, I'm a Canuck, but doctor, I am Steven Universe. Yeah, it's a perfect, Steven Universe is
Pagliacci.
Yeah, it's so good. And near the end of it, like, he's always been able to open up to people and talk, but with these feelings that he can't comprehend, with these things that at the very core of his being that aren't at the conscious, but are very much at the subconscious. These physical reactions that he doesn't understand, he hides and keeps from other people. He feels like after everything is said and done now, he can't come forward and talk about these things. Not because it would make him seem weak, but because it would be a burden for other people. He feels that he should be strong enough to deal with this stuff, and he's not. And that is... Woo, that hits hard.
Yeah, and also, like, his breaking point is basically his reality shattering when he realizes that his dad is kind of a petty child and not an
sorry.
You kind of cut out there. His dad is what?
His dad is kind of a petty child.
Yes.
And also he's not an amazing parent. He's a good dad in a sense, but he's not great at being a parent.
Not particularly. And oh man, I was not expecting that damn episode, Mr. Universe.
That episode got me so much, and I went into it not thinking I was going to like it very much, because I'll be honest, Greg Universe is, like, I don't think he's a bad character, but, like, whenever there's episodes that primarily center around him, I'm usually, like, pretty take or leave on him. But the Steven Universe Future episode where they check out his childhood home was, as someone who sometimes felt like my parents were pressuring me or, like, putting up walls and then getting out and kind of, like, realizing, kind of having the opposite understanding that Greg did of, like, getting out and realizing how important that was for me, informative, like, really opened my eyes to, like, wow, yeah, like, seeing how that could ripple out from him and what that means for his kid when he sees what life was like or could have been like and it's a grass is always greener kind of thing of him just being so furious about how, like, I could have had structure and a life that people would consider normal, but you had to be Mr. Rockstar and let me grow up like a hippie and not knowing anything.
Not going to school.
Was such a fascinating turn that I did not expect for the show to tackle at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, who expected the show to tackle one of the things that it treated so nonchalantly for seasons? Oh yeah, Stephen never went to school. He's never been to a doctor. He's lived this free life. And then finally he's 16 years old and he's like, Dad, what the fuck?
And I think it's also a thing where the reason the show treated it so normal is that to Stephen it was. And then it wasn't.
Yeah.
And also I love the framing of it by the very end where they're starting to have the typical Steven Universe wrap up the emotional arc of the episode moment, and Stephen just sort of tunes it out.
Yeah.
It's like, that's usually how these episodes go, right? No, not this time.
Yeah. He's not having any of it. And I think that scene is like where things like officially go south. Because up until that point, he had been struggling and deteriorating, but that was when the spiral happens. And it's a pretty rough point. Because up until then, you know, when Growing Pains is a tough episode to watch. That's the one where he gets told he has PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And everything going into that is like, you just see how Stephen is an outsider to both gems and humans, that he has trouble connecting, and the only people he's made a connection with have been forged in war.
Yeah.
And so when he finds out that he completely lost this chance at normalcy, that everything in his life, every struggle, every pain that every ounce of pain that he's gone through ties back to his parents.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty real too. Like, something I really want to say, and this is sort of important. We are more sculpted and more influenced by the relationship we have with our parents than most people understand. More than a lot of people comprehend, we are molded by the way we are raised. And our household can really determine the way that we, you know, respond to outside trauma, to outside people, to problems, to and even our natural behavior when we're alone. I am a lot like both my mother and my father in ways that I like and don't like. Hell, one of the biggest fights I ever had with my father was when he said, "You're just like your mother." I broke shit that day. I was mad. I was angry. My mother was not a good person. But he had a point. There are parts about me that are truly and honestly pretty reminiscent of the way that she was when I was growing up.
You're informed by your upbringing.
Yeah. And Stephen is a great example of that, where there are many things about his father that are mirrored in his personality. His love for music, his nonchalant nature, but he there are things about his mother that don't actually impact him so much psychologically, but more her legacy, the things that she left for him, the past that he has to inherit. And it's so fascinating.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's for him, it really comes to a bubble, or it bubbles to the surface at that point. And
yeah. And then we get the episode where he just isolates himself with Jasper for a bit.
Oh, sorry, you cut out. What was that?
Yeah.
Then we get the episode where he isolates himself with Jasper for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I was so excited about. Like the show ends up going in a completely different direction, and I think it's for its benefit. But Like the Jasper episode felt like the pre-finale episode for an anime of like all right, we had our training arc, we had our big like a little bit of a time skip, and now our character is beefed up and ready for whatever the final conflict is going to be.
Which, by the way, I loved the 2 days, and I'm like, oh right, Stephen can transform his body. He's actually responding to his. Okay.
I will say I love Buff Stevens' design. It's so good.
Yes, actually, 100%. That design is phenomenal.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Like, and I love the fact that he cannot get away from the pompadour. He will never let that go.
Yeah, it's what he wanted to be in that like Dawson's Creek show. And it's also what he sort of his idealized version of himself was when he tries to be tough.
Yeah. And then the final training scene with Jasper happens. And as
oops,
it
I did a murder.
Somebody in the chat said, actually, it's technically Gem Slaughter.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, oops, all death. Yeah, as it turns out, catharsis is actually unhealthy. Especially when it comes to violent catharsis. Physical catharsis specifically is unhealthy. If your idea of dealing with your problems is venting through violence, whether or not it's against a person or an inanimate object, it actually reinforces the idea that the way to handle your emotional trauma is through physical force. That is not good. You don't want to do that.
Don't punch pillows and stuff.
Yeah, don't punch pillows, don't break tables, don't put holes in walls, and don't shatter your friends.
But it feels so good.
Or in this case, frenemies.
Yeah, frenemies. He enacts some lethal violence upon Jasper in a scene that is really cool and really awesome and really sad.
Yeah.
Because when he's like, "You're right, Jasper, I have been holding back." I'm like, this is amazing and terrible. Oh no!
Love the hard
and when
cut.
he hit her, when he hits her, I was like, wait a second, hold on. How hard did he hit her? And then when he runs in, I'm like, no way. And then he opens up his hand, and you just see the fucking pieces. And I was like, okay, well, of all the directions they were gonna go, legitimately 100% not the one I thought they were gonna, and they did.
Did you actually wonder whether or not Jasper was going to be fixed?
Yes, I'm gonna be honest with you. From the story they wanted to tell, it was a good thing that he brought her back. But from a dramatic point of view, man,
it could have gone either way.
I honestly think Jasper coming back, it was also important because I really liked just the horror of Stephen bringing her back, and her first words are basically "my diamond." Like I'm glad you did that. Like the now I see you, and Stephen realizing like what he's become in that moment. Like obviously he's dealing with it before that, but like that brings it all to a head. I think it's such a good way that while if Jasper was just dead would have brought a lot of weight. I think the understanding of like how much like the thing that I hated so much I've become was necessary.
Yeah, and I love the way
really
it comes back.
Things.
I love the way it comes back in the final 4 episodes and how he internalizes it.
Yeah. In fact, and again, I think it was the right move for the story they wanted to tell. Like 100%. But shit, again, there was this part in there that was like, if she doesn't come back, I'm going to be emotionally destroyed, and this is going to be one of the bravest, darkest things they've ever done.
There's multiple ways to tell a good story, turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, glad that they did. I would not have changed it. Like, in retrospect, I would not have gone back and been like, man, Jasper should have stayed shattered. No.
It's one of those things where I think it would have maybe been better in the moment, but as a whole, I think it's more important that she did come back for that.
Exactly, 100%. And Hellfire, Hellfire is saying, I can just keep on breaking things and fixing them, and you won't ever know or think about it. And I'm like, oh man,
yeah, that line was great, and his just how messed up is that? how that reinforces in his head how much of a monster he is, that he can just not face consequences.
Yeah. Like, oh man. So, the final 4 episodes, starting with Homeworld Bound, after he is shattered and brought back Jasper, he decides that I need to get away from all these people, and I need to go to the people I keep putting off, and I don't want to be like, but they're the only people who can help, and I'm gonna go to the Diamonds. And he goes to the Diamonds, and oh boy. Oh, so, yeah, first he goes to the Diamonds, but he runs into Spinel. And Spinel's like, oh, well, you know what? You should talk to Yellow if you're having problems with your physical form. And by the way, I'd like to point out that throughout this episode, she makes 3 immediate visual references to Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know why they did that. They just did.
I don't know if I caught that.
Yeah, there are 3. She does the spin dash around him once.
Yes, no, I do remember that now. Yeah, her legs are definitely like Sonic.
Yep, and there's a physical pose she does that's actually modeled after one of Sonic's poses. That one's a little more subtle, but the other 2 are basically like, oh, she's fucking Sonic the Hedgehog. What the fuck? But yeah, so goes to Spinel, which, by the way, hey, it's Spinel. Fucking haven't seen her since the movie. I was actually really happy to, because, you know, again, one of my favorite villains, and I'm glad she's still kicking around. She's been hanging out with the Diamonds. Diamonds got new powers. Yellow is putting gems back together and removing their corruption, which, cool. I mean, I'm still in the camp of they should have never been redeemed, ever. But okay, if this is, like, they're redeemed now, so that's just one of the things we have to put up with.
Well, and, you know,
she's trying to make...
I will say, just real quick on that, I think them being redeemed is important for the story they're actually telling, rather than the story people wanted them to tell. And this is part of why, like, there's no healing if they don't work it out with the Diamonds, rather than just, I don't know, kill them or jail them and be done with it.
I think it's fine for them to be redeemed. Yeah, it's more like it seems like they get off without any form of punishment is what seems like the qualm here. Like, it's not so much that there wasn't an enemy we could talk down. It was like, well, these people did terrible, terrible things, and we're just gonna let them go because they realized it was wrong later.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of, like, the fucking turn, the face turn for these characters is so immediate and so unearned.
It's one of those things where in a real world situation that does not work, but in a cartoon universe where we can have characters have a you know, turn over a new leaf and it's genuine and it's real and we know that they actually will not commit crimes anymore.
When the story's not about war, but it's about family trauma.
Yeah, but when you represent it as a war, it's a little tough. It's tough.
But unlike other wars, it's a war where you can actually try to fix things.
Yeah.
What I like, though, is that the Diamonds, other than, like, White, I wasn't quite sure how to do, but for Yellow and Blue both are, like, they have the surface level, like, even though they become good now and they're using their powers to, using finger quotes here, heal, their powers are both very surface level. Like, Yellow is basically a gym plastic surgeon now, and Blue is a gym drug dealer. Like, they're just like, I'm gonna make you look the way you think you want to look, so it's fine. I'm changing your appearance, so it's gonna be okay. And Blue is like, oh, you feel sad? Here, just take a little hit off my cloud, and you'll feel fine.
Okay, we can talk. We don't have much to talk about with Yellow generally, because Yellow, what the fuck, phone? Don't you fucking do that. Yellow, you know, okay, she's using her powers to fix gems. That's neat. Blue, first of all, gets one of her only songs in the entire show, which is a beautiful song. It's not the best, but it's gorgeous. Like, re-listening to it the second time, I was like, man, I really wish she had gotten more opportunities to sing. The little warble in her voice is so
Irish.
To listen to. So very Irish.
Very Irish.
Yeah. Okay, so this is interesting because everything in Steven Universe is a fucking metaphor, except for when it's not. Here, oh, you're feeling off? Here, take this thing that'll make you feel better. Okay, it makes me feel better, but it doesn't actually make me better. And that is, I'm back here like, all right.
Rebecca Sugar is anti-weed. Okay.
It's like, so are you saying that, hey, drugs like fucking pot will make you feel better, but they won't make you better? Or are you talking about prescription drugs that will make you feel better, but don't make you better? Because, to be fair, both are technically true. You know, meds don't fix your problems.
Neither are a replacement for therapy.
Yes, they are not a replacement for therapy at all.
They can help, but they don't replace therapy.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because all three of the diamonds give him these different directions, and it's really interesting to see them. And you can take Blue's clouds different ways, and I think that's fine. I think like for the purpose of this, let's say they're antidepressants. They might make you feel, oh yeah, you know, it's fine, it's good right now, but they don't last. And when they're done, you're still going to come back to that place where you're frustrated and hurt and struggling.
The thing with medication also is like, it's not a cure-all. Like, if you're someone who needs medication for a chemical imbalance, like, just taking the medication is not going to solve your problems. There is a layer of personal growth and healing that you also need to do. And and like, so even if you view Blue's powers as like actual like prescription medication, it's still one of those like, but this isn't the complete fix. This is not everything we need. This is not the total solution that we're looking for.
Yeah.
Well, and also, I think that might have been a way they could have taken it, but I'm not sure they did take it that way. It may have been more of just, this isn't what Stephan needs right now, and it's not what he wants right now.
Mm-hmm. And so he goes to White. And White starts off kind of funny, if not a little creepy. And then very quickly takes maybe one of the darkest turns that Steven Universe has literally ever had.
Now he wants to do a murder.
Yeah. When he goes to White, White's like, yo, I've also got this new power. Instead of channeling myself through other people, people can channel themselves through me. Which is creepy and weird, but, you know, she's into it. And, you know, does it with Spinel to funny and, again, disturbing result. And then tells Stephan, hey, you need to talk to yourself. Why don't you inhabit me and you can have a little bit of a conversation? And Stephen's like, that sounds like a good idea, actually.
Seems like a mirror would do just as well, but all right.
Yeah. Turns out it was actually the worst possible decision. Remember earlier when you brought up Jasper saying my diamond and how that was bad for Stephan? Turns out a diamond is the last thing he wants to be. And seeing himself in White's body fucks him entirely. And his
he tries to kill
emotional
himself.
and physical response. Yeah, his emotional and physical response is so violently over the top. He tries to shatter White Diamond.
Who is also him.
Who was, at the time, also him.
It's very loaded.
Yeah. He just immediately realizes, like, oh my god, I hate you. You hurt me so badly. You're the problem. You need to go. Which is, you know, can be taken in a couple of different ways, you know, depending on the writers. Hey, you remember how you want us to kill the diamonds? Well, and I'm not going to touch too much on that. I just think it's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, he tries to shatter her and fails. He ends up hitting himself at the pillar and not her. But that scene where, you know, he / White Diamond is saying, stop, I don't like this. And his only response is, too bad.
Yeah.
Okay. If I were a kid watching this, I don't know if I could handle that.
It's like twice as bad as the Brave Little Toaster nightmare scene.
Oh, the scene from Little Toaster? Yeah. Oh, man.
And also, just a fun side note amidst all the dark things that happened in that episode, a lot of Sonic references with Spinel's animation throughout the episode.
Sorry, you cut out a little bit.
God damn it. Just a fun little side note. A lot of Sonic animations for Spinel that episode. It was fun.
Oh yeah, I brought that up earlier.
Oh, you did? Okay. I went to the
Sorry.
bathroom.
Oh, you went to the bathroom? How dare you?
I snuck out to go to the bathroom.
Okay. So yeah, he tries to kill White Diamond, doesn't work, and yeah,
and kind of like I would say, sort like, not that he was really improving, but I feel like that going to the diamond set him back more than it helped him figure out what to do, and put him in a much worse place than he was when he was running up there already. And you know, that terrible place he was running up there was shortly after killing someone, so that's how bad this was.
Yeah, and also Spinel tries to quote him at himself.
You just gotta sing it out, man.
Yeah, and it's like, don't you give your advice back to me? And I'm over here like, wait, actually no, that's what you need, buddy. That's what you. Come back, no.
I can make a
so
change.
He decides. Oh yeah, I love her recreating the "I can make a change," and I'm like, God damn it, Spinel. So he runs back off to Earth because he's like, fuck, shit, I fucked up bad. I can't go back. I can't go back. What do I do? How do I handle this? Handle what? No one knows. Nothing happened. You know what? Everything will blow over. Everything's fine. It's fine. This is fine. Spoiler alert. It wasn't fine. Yeah. He decides to go straight into denial. And he tries to be normal. But now he's pink all of the time. And everyone's noticing. And he even tries to take on that body, that like something similar to when he fought Jasper. Oh no, I'm this mature, responsible adult. I've got everything. I can do everything. I'm good. I'm a good guy. I'm the good guy. I handle things. I am helpful, and nothing is wrong in my life, and all of my problems can be handled the exact same way I've always handled them. And he tries to go out and do some good things. And this episode tries to inject some comedy. And I won't lie, it wasn't working incredibly well for me because the emotional dissonance here is so fundamental.
The plant guys are pretty funny, though.
The plant guys were funny. I like the fucking plant zombies he makes are pretty good. But yeah, he tries to do the right thing, and we try to go back to comedy, and it doesn't work. And somebody said that was intentional. That might have been. Maybe the comedy was supposed to be very uncomfortable.
I think very much you were supposed to be like, oh, I'm
somewhat
uncomfortable
unsettling
with this.
Yeah. And he goes back home, and everyone confronts him. Everyone shows up, and they're like, hey, you gotta talk to us, dude. You're not all right. You are so not all right.
Welcome to your emotional intervention, Stephen.
Yeah, in a city over, there is all right, and you are far away from that city. Talk to us. And he tries to talk about it, but in the end, he just kind of feels like it's dragged out of him. This intervention just drags out the truth that he has poorly handled his own trauma, and in that he is degraded into he is basically become his own monster. And
also people keep crowding him and yelling at him.
Well, yeah, a little bit of that, but honestly, unfortunately, that's what he needed at that time.
Yeah.
Like that was the only thing that was going to finally get it out of him. That's how interventions can work sometimes, where you pin someone down and say, no, you're not going anywhere. We need to talk about this.
Yeah, I just think at one point Connie yells at Stephen like, you didn't tell them? And it's like, there's a calm way to say that right now.
Well, they're all dealing with something they don't know how to handle either.
Yeah.
And oh my God, the response. Shit, by the way, when he says, I only actually ever shattered Jasper, Amethyst, what? is so good. Like, the look on their faces is horror. They're like, wait, And the fact that I think he kind of was like, oh shit, Jasper didn't tell you, huh? I didn't tell you. Okay, but it's fine though. It's fine. I fixed it. I can fix it. I can fix all of this. And
then he reveals that like that's the problem, is that part of it anyway, is that he can just
I'm too good at fixing things that I refuse to address problems that can't be fixed.
Yeah.
It's that you want to know what a functional alcoholic is? But yeah. And then
he erupts, and I'll go ahead and say this. I think this is probably my least favorite part of the finale, despite how important it is. I think this big fight with Monster Steven, I did not find very satisfying.
Yeah, agreed. Stephen Kaiju universe.
Yeah, like I don't think it's like, I'm not gonna go and say it's bad. It's just it felt like a lot of just kind of like twiddling our thumbs to get to the part that we knew was coming.
And fact of the matter is, like, I legitimately appreciate the message here. I really do. Because the idea, like, there didn't need to be some violent drag-out fight. But I gotta basically agree that, you know, and not to mention, the stuff with the diamonds and everybody crying and talking about their problems and Conning having to show up and say, no, it's not about you, it's about Stephen. I'm like, okay, sure.
It's one of those, I think that's a good lesson to be told to people who are friends with people who are struggling with things like this, because it's very easy to find a reason to blame yourself for your friend's problems. And
yeah,
like, and even if it is to a degree your fault, like Connie says about the diamonds, like it's one of those, but focusing on that is not going to help them.
Yeah, which, I mean, okay, that's a good message. But in this instance, I felt like it was kind of poorly done. Like, too on the nose isn't the phrase that I would technically use for it, because sometimes you gotta make your message clear. But I just felt like it was clumsily done, and that's my only personal feeling about it. Is that
it felt like a comedic take on it, almost, to with how over it was, which I think to a degree it was supposed to be, but I feel like it just kind of like did not fit well with everything else.
But
a little bit too rushed, a little bit too comedic.
But I do think the emotional high point was a very high point for me in that episode.
Is it the hug?
Yeah, like the hug and everything after that.
The hug and like the minutes of crying.
Okay, look, my honest personal feeling about the diamonds is that I don't like the way that they were redeemed. And that stays true. And so scenes with them kind of frustrate me a little bit, especially when they're acting like good people and helping. But that being said, I wanted to get that out there so I could just kind of, you know, that's my feeling on it. The hug, I've seen some other motherfuckers on Twitter bitching about, like, I can't believe it all ends with a fucking hug. And I'm like, fuck you.
I can't believe you can't believe that.
Huh?
I can't believe they can't believe that.
Yeah, I can't believe that the show managed to sell, like, the big finale being a huge emotional, like, hey, we're here and we're going to help you. That's kind of the entire point of the entire series is communication and mental health and growth. And yeah, the series ends with a giant hug. That's the fucking point.
Yeah, like, I feel like that's something you, maybe not exactly, but you could have telegraphed from a while away. It's just like, oh, nonviolence always seems to be the real solution to these things.
Well, non-violence to a non-violent problem. I mean, yeah, sure, Stephen is violent at this point, but that's because it is a metaphorical representation of his struggle. There is violence involved, but violence shouldn't be the answer to that. Like, the answer to that needed to be communication and breaking through that wall and helping him come down. Yeah. That hug is exactly what it needed to be, because unlike with the diamonds, where it was an actual struggle of war, genocide, and death, this was all an internal struggle that was becoming external as a huge metaphor. So yeah, it absolutely needed to be a moment where this isn't violence, this is love. Love and communication are the only things that will solve this.
And I got weepy when Kaiju Steven cried. So shut up.
Yeah, no, fucking me too, dude. Like the moment that Garnet wraps his arms around him and holds him in place, and then he just kind of freezes up, and then everybody comes in, and fucking his dad saying, "Whatever you need, I'll make it happen. I'm there for you." And then finally, Connie comes out, and she's like, I know I don't have powers, and she kisses him, and boom. And I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah,
I'm like,
on a certain level, he just needed reassurance that Connie still loved him.
Yeah, and you know what? It is not good to measure your own self-worth on how others value you, but it is so important. We are a species that is heavily reliant on community. We're social animals. We don't do well with isolation. And hell, a lot of people are probably dealing with that right now. Like, this is a really tough time for a lot of people. We need our communities. We need our friends. And while some people handle isolation better than others, Stephan is not one of them. And to know that he's got people there who love him and are there for him when he's hit his lowest part, that's really important.
Yeah, he needs to know that the people around him still care about him.
Yeah, that he isn't the monster that he thinks he is. So in that moment where everyone is just telling him, it's like, it's okay, we're still here. We'll help you get through this. You just have to talk. You just have to talk.
It's also important for Stephan to, realize that his value to his friends is not purely in his ability to fix them. Like, him actively being a problem does not suddenly mean they're not friends anymore. Yeah. And, that's a real important lesson for Stephan and just in general.
And it's shown a bit more starkly in the Peridot episode.
Yes.
Mm. And yeah, so he goes back to normal, and fucking Lion's there, and you know what? I'm really glad Lion's the last one he gets to see. It's a really sweet moment. It's like a boy and his dog, and he just starts crying. And I won't lie, just Stephan crying killed me. I had to take a break between that episode and the next one.
Yeah,
not just crying, but ugly crying.
The performance there was great. Like that felt like a very genuine, real, hard to listen to cry.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, it's fucking Zach. Oh shit.
Callison?
Callison, yeah, Zach Callison is amazing. I love him.
He's grown into a very good actor.
Yeah,
very much so.
Between his singing and his acting as Stephan, I'm really, really impressed with that guy. Like, I was gonna say that kid, but I think he's 22 now. So yeah, he's an adult. Wasn't when it started. And I'm also really glad that the series was able to embrace his regular voice. Like, trying to go back and watch those old Steven Universe episodes is actually really tough. But yeah, that crying and then the clothes to black, I was like, yep, that was amazing. That was spectacular. And then we have the final episode, guys. We have the future.
And it's very chill.
Yeah. It's a very laid back episode. We find out that Zach's going to leave. Did I say Zach?
Yes, you did.
Well, yeah.
Started using his real voice. You started using his real name.
So Stephan's going to leave. He's going to move away. And by the way, I love the fucking fake world that they have. 39 states.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the first times they've really openly acknowledged that, no, this is super duper just not the real world.
This is not Earth,
Yeah.
And I loved the return of Cookie Cat, and especially the stopping on he left his family behind. Like,
Yep.
that works so well.
I know that there were some things that they just did not plan. I really believe that there were things that they did not plan throughout the series. I don't think.
No, I don't think that was planned either.
Yeah, but man, what a fantastic callback!
But it really worked.
Sometimes
Yeah,
good writing isn't planning; it's just seizing an opportunity when it's there.
Exactly, and that's that. And you know what? A lot of things in DBZA were like that for me. Like there was just some things where I'm like, no, this would be the perfect callback. I need to do this, and this. Oh my god, like the Cookie Cat callback is so brilliant. It's such a perfect way to bring everything together.
And Pearl's face, whoever storyboarded that stuff, I love what they did to Pearl in that sequence.
Actually, oh my god, real quick, Pearl's development throughout the entire show is so good because it's both visual and her personality. Yeah. She goes from being one of the ugliest, most annoying of the gems to being one of the best designed and relatable and fun. Oh, I love her.
It's hard to watch early episodes just because of how Pearl looks.
Yeah.
But oh my god, her singing the Cookie Cat song was so good. And she even takes a bite. She takes the smallest bite, and she actually likes it.
Yeah.
Scrumptious. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. And then Stephan tells them, hey, I'm moving, and you can't stop me, and don't talk me out of it. This is important. And they're all like, okay, cool. When are you leaving? Tomorrow? All right. Well, that's great. It's important. We'll see you around, kid. And
I love how he tells Pearl that he's leaving tomorrow, and she's dying inside, but she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see that response, because they play it the show does not show its cards at all, even a little bit.
Yeah.
Their response, all the gems sell it 100% that they're not fazed by this.
Yeah. But I love knowing that she says, "Oh, so soon," and what she really means is, "What? So soon?"
Yeah. And when you go back and rewatch those scenes, it's great. It's really good. And he goes off to tell the other gems, and of course, oh, poor Bismuth and Peridot and Lapis, they don't want him to go, and it's the exact response that he expected from his gems,
and kind of wanted.
What was that?
And also kind of wanted.
Yes, and absolutely wanted, because it's he doesn't want them to feel bad. But he definitely at least wanted them to, he wanted some kind of response, that is some emotional response. And so, he goes and tells them, and they respond like that. And then, helps his dad move in to his place, which, by the way, good. Yeah, I like that. All right. That's a great idea. Hey, stop living in your fucking van. Live in a home.
Here's what a bed feels like.
Yeah, and I love his response. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get up.
It's basically Stephan looking at his dad and telling him he needs to grow up.
Yeah, actually. And so, and they have this little heartwarming scene where he's like, "I know it's petty, but I was hoping for a bigger response." And Greg's response is perfect. You're allowed to feel the way that you feel. You're allowed to have feelings, even petty ones. And I'm like, oh, that's good. It's like don't be upset at yourself for feeling in a certain way.
We all have petty feelings sometimes.
Oh, what was that? Sorry,
we all have petty feelings sometimes.
Yeah, we all,
and that's actually healthy.
Yeah, and by the end of it, he's saying goodbye to all the people that he knows. He's about to leave. He has a scene with Jasper, and Jasper accepts it. Is not happy about it, but accepts it. And I love the fact that she's like, "But who's going to protect you?" And he's like, "I don't need protection." And she's like, "I know."
And I love that she refuses to use doors. She refuses to even use the same hole she made.
Oh, one thing that I'd like to point out, and this is also important. The first time ever that she calls him Stephan and he and him is after their fight.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't
Yeah.
think I ever noticed that.
Yeah, that is the first time, and it's really interesting to see. It's like my diamond can do as he pleases, and I was like, oh, huh, interesting. But yeah, they have he says goodbye to everybody, and then finally he's about to drive off. And he says goodbye one last time to his gems, and his family, and he leaves, and then stops, and then pulls the fuck back. And he's like, "What is wrong with you guys?" And oh my god, the response
Everyone
of all three
breaking.
of them is perfect. The fucking spray.
Yeah, Garnet's cry is real good.
Oh my god, it's such a simple visual joke, but it's somebody in the chat calls it One Piece crying. It is.
And Pearl can't even form words. she's incontinent.
Like fucking yeah, Garnet's like Pearl agrees. Oh god, it's so good. Like I won't lie to you. Like I'm glad they saved it to the end. Like I'm glad that they did what they did. I like that Garnet used her future vision and told them, okay, whatever you do, don't fucking break, because he might not leave if we do that, and it's important that he does. So we have to put on this strong face. And went too far in the other direction. And then finally at the end here, we just get this moment where everyone's like, "Oh my god, I'm so sad, and I'm gonna miss you, and I love you, and please just take care of yourself and write." And and the fact that Garnet's like, "I've seen your future. I've seen multiple versions of your future, and we're in all of them." And I'm like, okay, you know what? As much as I don't need those and they lived happily ever after. Garnet saying that to Stephen is so sweet. I like hearing. My poor little heart needs to hear that. Yes, it will be a happy future, and we're gonna be a part of it. And fuck.
Yeah, no matter what happens, they'll be there, and what happens is still uncertain, and that's good.
Yeah. And
the only thing he needs to know is that whatever he faces, they'll be facing together.
Yeah, it's so good. And
then the reveal that what we've been seeing in the credits for the entirety of Future has been Stephen leaving.
Oh god, that killed me, my dudes. When I saw him in the car driving away, I just sat back and I'm like, you can't. You throughout the entire season, through every single ending, it's in the opening, the title cards.
Yeah.
The title card every time. That's been him leaving.
Yeah.
It
was a good reveal.
Oh my god. Yeah.
I don't think I even ever pieced that together until just now. That is cool.
Yeah. It is amazing. Like I think there are some people like after what I've had to say about Steven Universe in the future, and there are people who have legitimate complaints about the Steven Universe. What an ending! What a simple but perfect ending. It wasn't this big over the top thing. It was just this soft human episode that tied everything back together. Oh yeah, and Steven has a therapist now that he can talk to on the road.
Talk about it.
Yeah. What a great ending. I was very happy with it. I was sad. It's melancholy. It's not melancholy, but it's bittersweet because he's leaving and it's over. It's over, isn't it? It's over.
I enjoyed the ending. I think I still think there was maybe like a bit more of an emotional high that I got off of the end of Steven Universe, not Future.
Yeah.
That I feel like there was some, like, I don't know, it might have been like an expectation thing that something about this ending did not quite meet how I felt there. So like immediately after it ended, I felt like kind of like a level of disappointment, but I do think the ending was really good. This is a series or like ending out of anything that in my mind I really like and this is just me as like a fan more so as someone who would make something good, I would have killed for like the post-credit epilogue, like Jasper went on to found the fighting gem thing.
Won't you
Amethyst
come see
got to
about
hang
me?
out and do cool shit. Like I just wanted those little, like, every character over the credits getting like some little blurb or something. Not having that hurts my soul a little, but also leaving it open is fine.
Yeah, but I really don't like Harry Pottering it.
I'm such a sucker for that stuff.
But I do. There is a part of me, again, I appreciated Garnet saying we are part of all of them. As I said before, I liked that a lot.
Garnet gives enough.
Yeah, and that was what I needed. That's all I needed. Just I needed to know that in fact there is that shining light at the center of all of it. And again, we don't know that the future is going to be great or even good, but we know that they'll be there for him, and that means a lot. And yeah, and then Stephen drives away, and then it's over. We're finished. Steven Universe is done.
It's actually done. Things can have an ending. It's okay.
Yeah. It's a thing where, like, the finale of the OG series and the movie are the height of the show for me. But I'm glad this story was told.
Yes. I feel like this was very important. It might not have gotten like quite the emotional peaks that the original series had for me, but I think Steven Universe Future tells a way less glamorous but arguably more important story. And I think it's good that it exists.
To me, it's like Parks and Rec season 7.
Okay.
Where it's like, it didn't need to happen, but I'm glad it did. I liked it.
Some people, I've met some people who really don't like the 7th season of Parks and Rec. You know what? I agree. I legit. I liked season 7. It was weird, but I liked it. But I can see why people wouldn't like it. But yeah, I'm happy we had this story. I'm glad we had Steven Universe Future. I legitimately am. I think that it 100% made Steven Universe as a whole better. And I'm glad that we had this show. I've had problems. A lot of people have had problems. It hasn't handled everything perfectly, but I think it did and said things that a lot of other shows just didn't and don't. And I'm happy for that. It meant a lot to me as somebody who has a lot of psychological baggage and is part of the LGBT community. You know, they were amazing things that the series did and said. So I just want to put it out there. I'm happy we had Steven Universe, and I'm sad to see it go, but I'm so happy it happened.
Yeah, and I think the problems the show had will eventually kind of fade away, and the good stuff is what's going to rise to the top with this show.
I think it will outlive. I think the good things that Steven Universe will certainly outlive everything else.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like it's always sad to see something you like end, but I think it having an ending will, one, make it way easier for me to recommend to people, and I think will just encourage more people to see it, because it's a lot easier to jump into something when you know it tells a complete narrative.
Man, I don't even know what to say now.
I think we're basically done.
Yeah, I guess we are. By the way, somebody in the chat did ask, if you could work with one of the VAs from Steven Universe, who would it be? Fucking Zach Callison and Dee Dee Hall.
One. Hello, one.
Yeah, you got to pick one. Which one is it?
Okay, if I had to pick one of them, it's
choose your baby.
It's going to be Dee Dee Hall.
Yeah, Dee Dee would be mine as well.
She played Pearl. I really
then that's my answer as well.
Really love her. Yeah.
I think her range is spectacular. She's the character who has probably gotten the most laughs out of me and the most tears. So it's a very impressive range.
Yeah. Actually, God, the way she plays the different pearls is nuts. It's insane.
I forgot she did that. Wow. Yeah.
Even in the finale episode, she had a new voice for one of the pearls.
Yeah.
On Homeworld Bound.
Yeah. She had, and I had to remind myself, wait, that's her. That's Dee Dee Hall. I had to remind myself. It's just her, again, as another Pearl. And I was like, that's a different character.
She's so good.
Oh my god. She's so fucking good.
And at the end of the movie, like the way she's just showing off with her singing.
Oh yeah.
Just crazy.
You cut out for a second there. I definitely want people to hear what you said. What was that?
I was just saying she shows off a lot with her singing. And it's great every time she does.
I'm pretty sure he's saying she's showing off, but it keeps cutting off right in the middle.
You know what? And you know what? For everybody out there, that might be the best. And then maybe we should wrap this up.
Yeah,
sorry, Stephan. I'm so sorry.
The podcast version will have a better version where you hear everything I say while everyone else goes, what?
Yes, in fact. And that's why I had us record our audio separately.
Good call.
But yeah. Thank you all so much for joining us. This was actually a pretty emotional Talkcast Podshow for me. But then again, when it comes to talking about psychological stuff and representation and all that stuff, it usually is. So I'm glad
I've realized it's really easy for media to make me cry these days, and Steven Universe has been a frequent culprit of that. So
dude,
it's only fitting that during its finale conversation, just thinking about all of the emotional moments make me a little like, yeah, it was a good show.
You and me both. It's weird. The older I get, the easier it is for shit to make me cry. But thank you all so much for joining us. You guys are fantastic. I think there's only one way to wrap this up. See you later, everybody. Bye. This has been the Talkcast Podshow.